Good morning, we're here with John Boardman, IHR's Director of Workplace Relations, and this morning we're talking about anti-discrimination training. John, we often get asked here at IHR, what are my organisation's legal responsibilities in regards to anti-discrimination training? John, what are they?
Okay, Mike. An employer has an obligation to ensure that their workplace is free from discrimination. As described and proscribed, I should say, by the various pieces of legislation. Now, what an employer has to do in an active sense, so it's not just a matter of letting people run free, as it were, around the workplace. It needs to do training so that people have a clear understanding of what's expected of them, so they understand what is appropriate behaviour and what isn't appropriate behaviour. And indeed, a lot of people say, well, we want to tick the training box, but it's often about how effective that training is, how frequently it is run, and whether the employer has satisfied themselves as to the fact that the employee has actually learnt what was required from the training that they undertook.
Okay, so John, the message is good quality training with a degree of regularity.
Absolutely, and remembering that there are people coming and going all of the time, so perhaps it needs to be covered in things like your induction training.
Sure.
And not only employees, but if you've got contractors on site or members of the public that are going to be frequently coming in, it may also mean that the training might be as simple as some posters on the wall, but in terms of subcontractors, it may mean that there's part of an induction process for them so that they're made aware of the policies, where they can be found, and some examples around them.
All right, great, thank you, John. And John, does there need to be a difference in training? You've just alluded to it in regards to contractors versus employees. What about the different levels of employees? Is there a greater onus that needs to be applied to training for managers or supervisors, team leaders perhaps?
Well, certainly there are additional responsibilities for somebody with line management responsibility. Those sorts of people not only talking about their own behaviour, but they need to be aware to identify inappropriate behaviour that might be occurring within their area of responsibility. They also need to know what to do if there is inappropriate behaviour, so that it's how you respond to that inappropriate behaviour. And it's about also modelling the appropriate behaviour as a leader. So there are quite significantly increased responsibilities for somebody in a line management role.
John, in summary, good quality training tailored to the appropriate employee levels within the organisation.
Absolutely, Mike, and the more interactive that training is, so that if it's a training which allows you to be able to assess whether a person has gained the knowledge that's been intended through that training, and training that is interactive is far better than somebody sitting there watching, a PowerPoint presentation where they're not required to input, and that they're not undergoing some form of assessment at the end of the training to satisfy that they have actually understood and comprehended what's being taught to them.
Okay, so interactive training, no chalk and talk, to steal the old saying. John, fantastic advice. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning at IHR Australia.